Hey, Amanda, welcome to our live Connected Yoga Teacher Show today.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I feel like we need to have this conversation about email because a lot of yoga teachers that you and I are talking with are not feeling like email is easy.
Mhm.
And you've done some things to make email even easier. And I want to dig in and talk about a few things that might make it easier. So, in case our yoga teachers listening don't know who you are, tell them what is the work that you do and who do you do it for?
Oh, well, thank you again for having me. And hello to all the connected yoga teachers. So, my name is Amanda McKinney, and I'm a marketing coach for yoga teachers. And I absolutely love to help yoga teachers find the best tools, the best specifically marketing tools. And I like to say the confidence within yourself to build the thriving yoga business of your dreams because I know, even though it can be uncomfortable to think about running a business and talking about money and all those things, marketing included, that deep down, that's really what you want to do. You really want to share yoga and impact more people. And so I just like to help find the tools for you and help you make things easier. I really do try with the marketing side of things to make it easier, like you said.
That's amazing. Okay, so for anyone who's here live, let us know in the comments if you can see us, hear us, and how email feels to you. And if you're here for the replay, let us know as well. Like, does email feel easy right now? And if it doesn't, what's the big, like, what holds you back or what kind of stumps you up on email? We all have things that kind of get in our way with email. Amanda, one thing that I hear from yoga teachers is, well, I don't want to bother people with my emails because I don't really enjoy opening a bunch of emails. What do you say to that?
So I like to remind everyone that we are not the same. And that when we, and I say we because we all do this, including Shannon and myself, we can all think, like, so, like, I don't like doing that. So no one else does. And what we're doing there is we're attaching our own behavior to someone else, which is not the case at all, right? We don't want to do that. We wouldn't do that with anything else. So why are we doing that with marketing behaviors, right? With how we consume things. And then I would also like to challenge you on it. So any person that says that, it's like, okay, well, let's try really hard not to attach our own behaviors to something to someone else. And the other part is I would challenge you because there are people, brands, companies, etc., that you do open emails from. You do because their email service is telling them that you are doing it. So you actually are doing it. It's because you find it valuable. And whether that's, I typically use Target as an example of like, if you get the Target emails that are like, hey, Amanda, that shirt you were looking at is on sale. And it's reminding me that I was looking at something and now it's on sale or whatever that is. I find that valuable. I also find Shannon's emails valuable, right? Because Shannon is emailing about what's on her podcast. And maybe I'm not in my podcast app every day like I used to be because I used to be in my car. I used to be driving around in my car and I would listen to Shannon's podcast. Now I have to take about 3 more steps to figure out what's on her podcast. And so the email really helps. And it's like, oh, I do want to listen to that one. So I need to then go to Spotify or wherever to actually listen to the podcast episode. There are people that we do find emails valuable. The problem is what we're remembering is that you remember, oh, I'm getting those emails all the time and it's so frustrating. You're remembering the 5% that are frustrating you, not the 95 that you're like, yes, I love that email.
How do we make emails like that are valuable? How do we create those as yoga teachers? What are some of the things that you see working right now?
Mm, this is so good. So I think I could go into a few things and I'm happy to talk about like what's working right now versus what worked a year ago or whatever. But what really matters no matter what year it is in business, What matters is you tapping in to what feels good for you. So, like me telling stories, if you're on my email list, you know that I tell stories about my life and I connect it to whatever I'm talking about on the podcast or whatever I'm sharing. So I might share a story about one of my one of the most probably opened and engaged with emails was when I told everyone on my email list that I baked sourdough bread. So I am not a cook, a baker. This is not something that comes easily to me. And I really had no desire to go down this sourdough bread train, which everyone seemed to do once the pandemic hit. It wasn't something that I cared to do. Well, one of my friends told me I should didn't tell me I should try, but he started to talk about it and he had this recipe and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to challenge myself and I'm going to do it." And so it became this story that I was like, "You know what? I didn't really want to do it. It wasn't something that I felt super called to do or that it wasn't going to be easy for me, but I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do it." And of course, I then, like you always know, I'm going to do wrap that in to a marketing message of how sometimes we have to do things that are challenging and the reward is pretty cool. So I told a story about baking sourdough bread, but ended up talking about marketing and people loved it. It's storytelling. And I tap into that and it works very, very, very well for me and my audience, which is everyone listening, right? So you tap into stories. That's very much a human behavior type of a thing. So we needed to figure out what feels good to us, right? The way I tell a story is not going to be the same way you tell a story, Shannon. So it's not going to be the same. I might put a really silly gif of me dancing around in my kitchen. You may not do that, right? There's a difference of how we're going to interact with our audience, but that's more me, right? So I'm going to tap into that and I'm going to really run with that. So we need to give ourselves permission to do what feels good for our marketing. But on the note of like what's working, storytelling is great. Um, in terms of like subject lines, there's a few things that work really well of like putting numbers in the subject line, having short subject lines. There's anything that's like I don't want to say controversial, but something that would like catch someone's attention, like, "Ooh, I didn't think she'd say that." Like if any yoga teacher was like, "Stop doing yoga," in the subject line, I would be like, "Ooh, I got to see what she's saying about that. I've got to know." Because if a yoga teacher tells me to stop doing yoga, I'm curious, right? So piquing that curiosity, that's really helpful. And not leading, and I talk about this a lot, so I feel like I've probably said it so many times, but we have to keep saying these things. Not leading with, "Here's my schedule. Join my class every day this week," or whatever. You have to really tap into why. Why is this worth their time to read? Why is it worth their time to open? And once they open it, give them the information in the way that they're going to resonate with it the easiest and actually read it. So some people like stories. That really resonates with me and my audience very well. Other people are like, "Here's the 5 bullet points that I want to tell you today." And that would work really well.
Okay, I love how you're saying that we should really bring our own personality to it. And what you see working really well with your list is stories. One of our live people here says, "I still haven't mastered the art of storytelling in email one day, but I do like to include little golden nuggets in my emails, like an intention of the week that my students told me they enjoy."
I love that. I love that. Like for me, I think like if you were my student, and I apologize that we don't know your name, but if we were sitting here and we're hammering it out, I would say, "Oh, I want you to have a section in your email that says like the golden nuggets for the week or something." Like I would call attention to it. And if you're on my email list, I know not everyone is, but if you happen to be on my email list, you would know that each week in my emails that I send out, there is a section towards the bottom that is a weekly content prompt. It's a social media post that you can copy and paste and use in your own social media account. And I give that. That has become a staple on my emails. And when I forget, because it happens every now and then that I'll forget, I know because people email me and hit reply and they say, "Where is it?" And then I think, "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot." And it doesn't happen very often, but people know to look for it. So that's why I would say, like, make it a bold heading of that's just part of your email. I love that idea. And I'm going to, the other part about like not mastering storytelling, this takes a bit. Some people might get this really quickly. I'm not a master storyteller at all. So I feel like when I tell stories in real life, they go on for way too long. I probably talk way too long. I've gotten better in emails simply because I got started. Simply because I told myself, and I'll show you exactly what I do. So when I think about, okay, the episode of my podcast next week is about this week is about social media. So podcasting is about social media. I have no idea what my story is. My email is going out tomorrow. I have no idea what it is. So let's pretend though that I do. When I write my email, I literally go like this. Like I back up from my desk and I'm like, what story do I have from my, and I'm like twisting around like a child over here. Like, do I have a story from current events? Do I have a story from my childhood? Do I have anything that I could connect with the lesson? And I really give it time to think about that. I dedicate a specific time of my day each and every Friday to write my email for the next week. And there's time and space that I allow myself to think about that story and to figure out, what should I talk about? And sometimes it doesn't include a story. If I can't think of anything, I just tell you, hey, this is on the podcast. This is what's happening on the podcast this week. And I don't force it, but most of the time there's a story. But the awesomeness comes in when I think about, like, if I pick that podcast episode topic and I know a story right then, it goes in that Google Doc right then. I don't wait until the Friday before that podcast episode goes out to think about it. I go ahead and put it in my Google Doc so I know, oh, I'll tell that story about that sourdough bread. I'm going to do that and I'll write it right then. So when you think of a story, even if you don't know what to connect it to, I would say put it in a Google Doc and think like, oh, I'll tell that story about when I fell down on my bike as a kid and then got back up. Like I'll tell that story one day. I don't know how, but I'll tell that story. And you just kind of put it there and it gives you a place to start. So I would say just get started because I don't know very many people that are really great storytellers naturally. That's a gift. That's a gift that some people are born with. It wasn't me. So just start.
It's so true. Some people are like storytellers and you know them, but there are tons of people who write amazing emails. And I listen to one podcast. It's My Favorite Murder. Shout out to all the fellow murderinos here. And they always say a good story has a beginning, middle, and end. Don't leave people hanging. So I think those are great tips about the stories. And I love how you said, put them in a Google Doc and hold on to them and wait and see what connects with that email. Sherry is here. Hi, Sherry. It's nice to see you.
I love that I included in this. My favorite ladies. I love it.
Yeah. I haven't seen Sherry for so long, so I'm so glad to see you're here live. I wonder if you have email questions, Sherry, that we can answer today. One other person said, so glad I could make it live. I wish that we could see everyone's names. You can, I don't know, click something.
Yeah.
You're on Facebook and it'll do it.
Once you're in, you can't do anything. I think once you've connected, you just have to tell us in the chat.
Yeah, you can just put your name at the end of it if you want. Sinead's saying, I spend so much time procrastinating and then send out something completely uninspiring at the last minute. I love the idea of thinking of a story. I just want to say, Sinead, I feel like you're being a little bit hard on yourself here.
I was about to say the same thing. And hi, Sinead.
Um, and Sinead, you have tons of stories. Like you have your kids and your parenting. I think one inspiring thing for me is when yoga teachers tell stories about how yoga helps them in their life, like
Mm.
with mobility or stress or raising children, work,
Mhm.
all of those things.
I
Tonight,
also
oh,
hi, tonight. Before we go over to tonight, I wanna say to Sinead, hats off to you, sister, for sending the email even when you think it's uninspiring.
yes.
I am here for that because you taking that action is massive, massive. The fact that you think something's uninspiring could lead you to not send it. And I'm just so excited that you just send it and it's like, it's out there. It's good. And that's exactly how we get better because now you're going to try and share a story next week or this week whenever you send your emails and it'll get better and better with time. I'm sure if I went back several years, my emails were gems, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine if I went back and looked at my emails.
Right.
It was probably like, "Come to my class. It's at this time."
Right. Right, because we all have to start somewhere, but there's hope. There's hope that we can get better, and we've said this several times about our podcast, like, I hope that the email I send tomorrow, that I look back at a year from now and think, "Oh, I could have done better with that."
Yeah,
Right? Like,
yeah.
I hope that that's what I do because I hope I continue to keep getting better and better and better with serving yoga teachers and giving you better and more efficient tools.
Mhm. So true. Tonight, nice to see you, especially since you've had such a busy day
Yes.
over at the Hill Creatives Roundtables, which Amanda and I were both there today. If all of you don't know what I'm
Yes.
talking about, go to Hill Creatives Roundtables. It's free. There's 2 more days of it. We're
Mhm.
talking about how
So
to make
good.
yoga
Tonight, put it in the
classes.
chat, I would say.
Yeah, put
I
it
don't
in the
wanna
chat, please.
yeah. It's so good.
Uh Someone said, "Thank you for that, very helpful." Laura's here and says, "Hello." And Laura says, "I try to add a self-care tip or
Mm.
recipe even if I don't have an inspired story to tell." That's amazing.
I love it. I have another student, Laura, that works with recipes as well, and, oh my gosh, they get so much engagement. I totally forgot until you said that, that's another thing that's working. And so I can tell you that what she has done is so she has a topic for the month. She really specializes with Ayurveda. And so that ties right in. And so 1 week of the month, she shares a recipe. So that's one of her
Ooh.
weekly emails. And I love it. I was like, sign me up, get me on that list. Cause everything I see from her, I'm like, that is delicious. Can I make this? I don't know. So it's really, really great to have those recipes. And then it ties right in usually with what you're talking about. It's probably seasonal. Amazing stuff.
That is, and it's so easy to then take that and make that into like a blog on your website. I used to have this recipe for yogi tea. I used to serve it at the studio, and then everyone would ask for the recipe, so finally I put it on my
Yes,
website, and that was a big I need to dust that one off.
you should. I was just thinking, I have another student that works with recipes, but she doesn't write the recipe. She finds a resource from someone else
Ooh.
and includes it in one of her emails. So she actually doesn't have to put the blog together at all. She just links it as a resource. And what a beautiful thing that is to support someone else, right? Whether she knows them or not. It's like, hey, I found this amazing recipe on Pinterest and think it's great. And you point people there and it's giving a resource because that's what email is doing is you're sharing free content, additional value, this value add information in your emails that sometimes it doesn't have to be yours, but you are still seen as the person that's providing the resource, even though it's someone else's resource.
That's so true. Tess, it's nice to see you here. An idea parking lot for email stories. Such a good
Yes.
idea. I
Oh, I've got
agree.
the Google Doc test. It's good too. And I think about like, because I'll think about a random story and I'll think, ooh, I bet that would be a really good connection. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with it, but I'll just put it there and it gives me a great place to go when I'm feeling really stuck.
Sherry, I'm so glad you asked this question. How often do we
Mm.
email people, Amanda? What's your answer for this one?
So my I have a lot of answers for this. It comes down to what can you do consistently and what feels good to you. Because I am both Shannon and I will not lie to you and tell you that if you email twice a year, this is going to be a good idea. It's not. That's not going to help your business grow. It's not consistent enough. We both email on a weekly basis, and that works very, very, very well. However, if you haven't emailed your list in a while and you go to weekly emails, that's a big jump for you and for them. So I typically say start with once a month and make sure you're consistent. If if that feels good and you're like, I have more to say, which always happens, then go to every other week. Now, I have seen some of my students go to weekly and they love it. I have seen some of my students go to like stay at every other week, and that's where they prefer. I've also had some students that do amazing work with once a month. So it really just depends, but you have to know like if it's once a month, you better pack it in. You got to pack in the value, not meaning it has to be really long. It just needs to have some resources. Like you have to really be packing in that information and giving it to them in a way that's easily digestible, but also packed of information, if that makes sense, because you're not talking to them again for another month. So that's really a long span of time. And then I've had less people do that than every other week or weekly.
Yeah. I think that's so good. I know those month-long ones sometimes are, like, huge, and you and I have both worked with people where we're like, "This could be 4 emails."
Right.
Like, you just take that and chunk it up,
Hmm.
4 emails a month.
It really
And
is. And if you find like, I like what you just said. So I want to break it down for someone thinking, like, what is that? Like, if you write a really long email and you're like, I'm going to do once a month, and you're looking at it and it's really long, and you're like, I don't know if anyone's really going to read all of this, then what you could do is take that email and see how could I separate this out to where it's 2 or 4 emails that are smaller. You're not adding any extra content here. It's just pulling different sections of the email out and scheduling it for different days. Like that's literally what we're asking you to do, not to write additional emails. It's just taking small sections out.
now Denite has a really good question here, which you touched on. What happens if you haven't
Mm,
emailed your list for a long time and then you wanna send the email that doesn't make them all unsubscribe?
yes.
Any suggestions for that?
Yes. So, oh gosh, this is such a good question tonight. Thank you. So, first things first, don't apologize. Please, 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 dear friends, do not send an email that says, I'm so sorry I haven't talked to you in a while, because you're calling attention to something that someone might not even notice that you haven't talked to them in a while. Like that, just that thought might not cross their mind. So don't call attention to it. There's no need unless you want to share a story of like, let's say a personal tragedy happened in your life. And so you took a hiatus from your business for a while and you need to reconnect the dots. That would be something where you might want to loop something in and be like, I'm back and I'm okay, or something. Other than that, if you just kind of went dark on them because you needed a break for your own self, don't apologize. Just give them a resource. Just give something, share something. If you have something for free, just say you created this thing for free for them and you want to give it to them. And connect it with a story if you can. Like this helped one of your students, or there's just a way that you can provide value in a way where you're not being apologetic, because it's okay if you need a break and they probably didn't notice, and you're providing value. And so as long as you're not selling something, it's probably fine, because they haven't heard from you in a while. They might be like, oh yeah, Shannon, oh yeah, I haven't seen her emails in a while. They'll probably think that they haven't opened them in a while. Like they just probably thought, oh, I just haven't opened them in a while. She's been sending emails. So they didn't even know. But give something for free. Don't sell something at first. And I would also say, if and when that happens, because it happens to all of us, if you do that, give yourself some runway time of sending emails before you sell something. So don't send one email and then sell something. I would send a handful of emails before you even think about selling something.
Okay, so this goes right into Tess's question. How many calls to action can you put in an email? And
This
Amanda
is
knows
Shannon's favorite
I
question.
break my rule all the time on this. Go ahead, tell them.
One email, one call to action. And Shannon's laughing because guaranteed anytime she has multiple, I reply to the email and say, Shannon, you have too many calls to action here. There are exceptions to this rule for sure. But what you want to think about is in every email, think about what is the action that you want them to take. And if it's more than one, you need to send more than one email. You really do, because people are bombarded with messages. And so if they're like, should I do this or this? They might do nothing. And you would rather them take that one action, whether that action is signing up for your class, or the action is watch this YouTube video, or the action is check out this recipe, whatever it is, make it one call to action.
Before we get in here further, I just want to say, because there are tons of questions and we'll get to them, I also want to tell you all, like, Amanda has made email way easier. Well, all marketing easier, because she's put a course together and it's open and there are bonuses. And she's giving all of our connected yoga teachers a discount. Shh, don't tell. I'm just kidding. You can tell anybody you want.
Yeah.
Any yoga teacher can get the discount.
Mhm.
Tell us about the course.
Okay, so the course is such a labor of love. Shannon knows this. And the course has evolved. And so I hope anyone who's followed me for a while has the, not that you need my permission, right? But the permission to allow your offerings to evolve over time. And so I created Confident Yoga Marketing over a year ago. It's probably been a year and a half that I first created the course, and it was highly based on strategy, because I love marketing strategy. Like, if you want to talk to me about marketing strategy, bring it on. Let's get some coffee or tea, whatever you want to drink, and let's hash it out. I could talk about it all day long. But that's not what everyone needed. I had hundreds of yoga teachers go through the course and they were super happy with the course. But what I constantly kept hearing was, this is great, but where do I start? How can I get this train going? How can I pick up momentum? And Shannon knows, because we went back and forth on this. It's templates. Templates. Everyone wants templates. And so for me, I was thinking, but I don't believe that there's only one way to do anything. I really don't. It's kind of like when someone says, like, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible. And you're like, no, that's not true. Like, I don't believe that there's only one way to market your yoga business. I really don't believe that. So I had a hard time getting behind templates, but that's what you wanted. That's what yoga teachers kept asking me for. And so I did it, and now it's awesome because people love it and it's really helping people, and I love it. So inside the course, there's email, website, and social media templates galore. So there's tons of templates for everything, all the pages on your website that I think you should start with. So it's basic, just get you up, get you going, and get that train going with email, social media, and your website.
That's amazing. Also, if you sign up, use the code CONNECTED at the very bottom. Also, one other thing, if you want to see inside, I've already got my screens ready that I could show you behind the scenes of, like, what it looks like in the course. So tell me in the comments if you want me to show you around in there a little bit. And use the code CONNECTED to save 10%. So you'll go to the very bottom of the page to buy, and then it'll say,
do you have a coupon code? Something about a coupon code. Hit the arrow button, put the word connected, all caps, in there, and you'll get 10% off.
Thank you for doing that, Amanda, for our connected yoga teachers. I had a look at this course. I have to tell all of you, and I'm blown away. Like just as one thing is there's 100 social media posts, and Amanda's written them out so that you can make them yours, and then also shown you, like linked to someone using a post similar to that to show you what it looks like and how you can use it. The email templates are amazing. So if you want to see them, tell me in the comments and I'll show you.
Yeah.
But I know that there were some other questions. Here's a great one. I used to only email once a month, but it felt so strange jumping from that launch where I was emailing so much. Thank you for this, Micah. Like if you're like, never hear from the yoga teacher, and then they're like, boom, I'm selling this thing, you haven't heard from me. What do you say about that?
Micah's right on. Thank you, Micah, for sharing this, because it really does feel like that. And what I hear, so when I work with students, I hear like, Amanda, I feel like I'm always marketing. And that tells me like, okay, there's a disconnect here, because yes, marketing is part of our business and we will always be marketing. But usually what the person is meaning is I'm always selling. I feel like I'm always selling. And so that's when we have to take a look at, okay, what's happening here? What is happening? Are there like, how much do you feel like you're selling? Because your emails and your social media presence, which are most of what marketing is for a lot of yoga teachers, like your website, social media, and email, it should be either 80-20 or 90-10. Like everyone has their different opinion here. We're going to go with 80-20. 80% of the time, you should not be selling. 20% of the time is when you're actually selling. The 80% is giving a 100% of my students are like, I want to give yoga away for free. Not always, but they want to, because you're so generous. It comes from just a wonderful place in your heart of wanting to give yoga and having people experience yoga in their life. This is how you can do it. You do it with short marketing things, meaning email, YouTube videos, short clips on Instagram, Facebook Lives. This is the free content, right? That's what you get to give away. And so when you do that more and more and more, once you sell something that 20% of the time, it feels great, because those people have said, I want to know more. I want to go deeper. I want to learn with you. And so people get to self-select. And when you provide value the majority of the time, then those times where you're launching something new, so Micah mentioned launching, like right now, my course was just revamped. And so right now, if you are entering my world of marketing and getting to know me right now, you're going to hear a lot about my course. In 4 days, right? You're not going to hear about the course very much anymore. So there's heavy marketing periods, but it only happens a few times a year when you're opening something new, when maybe you have a series that opens like a 6 or 8 week series. It only happens every 6 or 8 weeks, right? And so then you're opening that up and you get a wait list going. And there's ways in which you can do that so that it's easier every time. But like Micah said, if you only email once a month, you're probably going to feel like you're selling every time you send an email, because you've got to fill something else. You got to fill a class, or you have to talk about your series, or you have to do something. But if you can send more regular emails, then you can talk about other things, provide more value, and feel like you're selling less.
This is so good. Lori, I'm going to have to disappear your comment. Otherwise, we just have to... But this is a really good one. So Lori's saying, I sent a picture of pigeon pose, wrote all the benefits, and also talked about an organic greenhouse in the area and got lots of great feedback about this. So I would love to hear from other people in the comments of what emails really did people reply back to you and say, oh, I love that story, or just engage with you in some way, or signed up for your classes in some way. That'd be fun to hear about.
That's awesome. Was it Lori or Laura?
Lori,
that was amazing. I'm so glad. that light that you saying that there was a lot of engagement from that. And so here's the thing. I think a lot of people forget this. Sometimes all it takes is to say, hit reply and tell me what you think of this. Because a lot of people will come to me and say, Amanda, I don't get any engagement on my emails. And I say, well, what did you ask them to do? And like, if you don't ask them to reply, they're probably not going to, dear friend. I think sometimes we get in our own head and we think that people will simply just reply because they feel like it. They're not going to. We have to tell them what we want them to do. So if there's something that you want them to do, if you really want them to tell you their thoughts on pigeon pose, invite that and say, tell me what you think about pigeon pose. How can I help you experience this pose in a better way? Or what questions do you have? And that's the call to action. That's the call to action in that email. Now, sometimes you can have a link to a video and say, if you have questions after you watch the video, you can always hit reply. Like I can see how that can go, but you can only make the call to action hit reply. Like share everything in the email and say, hit reply and tell me X, Y, or Z, or tell me your questions or whatever. And get that engagement, because that's where that conversation starts and goes back and forth. Like, I absolutely love it. And you'll get to a point. Like, I think Shannon and I have talked about this before. We've both experienced a point in our business where we have to use the phrase hit reply sparingly. Because 3 years ago, I said it in every email. Every email, I was like, hit reply, because all I wanted to do was learn about yoga teachers. Like, how can I help you? How can I help you? And that was my only outlet. I didn't have a Facebook group. My Instagram was not very engaged with. So I asked every question I could in email. And when one person replied, I was super pumped. And I learned from that one person. Well, over time, sometimes you have to stop asking, hit reply, because you get so many that it becomes harder to keep up with. Now, I still use this because I still want to hear from you. I still want to hear from you on my email list. I just have to do it more sparingly. I never want anyone to feel like you can't hit reply. So I just want you to know you can always hit reply and I will talk to you because I love hearing from you so much. But I want you to see and understand that it isn't like right now, if you feel like you are not getting that much engagement because you have a small list or something like that, like please like take advantage of that, because there is a point where you can't do that anymore. There's a point that Shannon and I haven't even gotten to, but it's going to be impossible to do it because as your audience grows, you can't do those things. Like there was a time, I'm just giving ideas here. I hope it's okay. I'm just giving ideas. There was a time early in my business that I didn't have very many people on my email list. And I said, hit reply and I'll send you a Starbucks gift card. I can't do that today. I can't afford to do that today. But I did it. And how awesome it was that I was able to do that.
I did something similar. I was like, if you read all the way down to this bottom of this thing, this email, then you could enter in a draw to win something. Or I did that near the beginning as well. I mean, that's still possible. You would have to do a draw. You can't do it for everyone.
Right.
Starbucks for all around.
Right. I wish I could. I totally wish I could do that. Oh my gosh, I would love it so much. But
somebody's just like, oh darn, sad I missed that.
Maybe I'll do it again. Are you on my
email her back and be like, where's the
Yeah.
Starbucks? Sherry's saying awesome idea, the reply on what they think, call to action,
Mhm.
and hit reply, good idea. Laura, I love that you're taking these ideas.
Mhm.
These really do work. I sent an
Mhm.
email recently and I said, like, I read every email that comes back.
Mhm.
I can't always reply to everyone.
Right.
I really try to, though, because I know that the people who are reading my emails are
Mhm.
generally podcast listeners.
Mhm.
I want to hear like what are people struggling with, and it is the same for your yoga students. It's like you say hit reply and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can't get to sleep these days. Da da
Yeah.
da. That's my big struggle. And that's your next thing that you share. It's like that inspires you
That
next.
becomes like, here's what could happen. If someone replies, like I just get so nerdy about this. I get so excited. someone replies and says, I can't sleep at night. I can't get to sleep at night, right? Because of whatever. You take those words and think about, like, if that's your thing and you're like, oh, I just want to help my students and I don't have a freebie yet, but I want to grow my email list, I would say, okay, great. I want you to record a audio meditation, like get to sleep meditation that's 5 or 10 minutes, right? Something like that. You record the audio, you make that your freebie, and then what you can do is take that person's words, right? The person has emailed you and said, I'm really having trouble sleeping at night. I can't quite get my mind to rest right as I'm laying down. I don't really know what to do. I don't want to be on my phone, but I'm thinking I want to pick up my phone. I don't really know what to do, right? They're just sharing their thoughts. You take those words, that goes on your sign up page for your freebie. Those words get to become your marketing words, because when you can use your students' words, that's when it really resonates. So on your sign up page, it says something along the lines of, can't get to sleep at night. Here's a 5-minute meditation for you. All you have to do is hit play and then turn your phone over, right? Because they're thinking their phone's right there, but they don't really want to be on it, but it's right there. So you can solve a problem with this free thing. That becomes social media post. The next time you email your list, you tell them, hey, I created this thing for you, and here it is. And you give them that file and you let them use that. And it becomes so much more than just one thing. You can allow one person replying to help you with so much content.
This is so good. Okay, this is answering some questions. One technical question, Sherry's saying, like, if we're going to record a freebie with audio, how do we do it?
Right. Great question. There are probably 500 answers to that question, but SoundCloud is a great option. So if you know SoundCloud, run with it. Depending on how big the file size is, you can make it a Google Drive link. You could maybe even embed it in your email service, depending on the size of the file, right? Like, it just really depends what service you're using and how you can deliver that based on the size. But I think SoundCloud was probably the best bet. And then you just get to choose of, like, I mean, if it were me and I was telling you to do some sort of a meditation when it revolves around sleep, I would let them download the file. And here's the reason why. This is like a real life story. So if you've been following me for any amount of time, I have a private yoga teacher. Her name is Megan. She's fabulous. This is a real life situation, which is why it's coming so easy to me, because my husband and I said we wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and we can't get back to sleep. So we're talking to Megan one day during our private session, and she's so sweet. She's so sweet. For Christmas, she gave us a midnight meditation. So it's a 5-minute meditation that we can play in the middle of the night, right? When we can't sleep. We had a hard time trying to figure out how to play it from our phone because we had this file and we couldn't figure it out. We had to add it to iTunes. And so I was like, okay, we need to be able to download this file. So if you can get it to where they can actually download the file, it makes it easier for them to actually use it. Oh, what happened was we could play it in the email. So we pulled it up by email. We could play it, but when our phone went to sleep, it shut Megan's voice off.
Oh, right.
We're like, oh, shoot. So we had to be able to download the file. So in my personal preference, because that happened, please let your people download the audio file so that they can do, if it's a meditation. If it's a video, you don't have to.
This is so good. I've also heard of yoga teachers just using their phone and using the voicemail app and downloading that. Time after time as a yoga teacher, students would leave and say, I wish I could just take your voice with me right before I fall asleep. This would be so helpful. And now technology is there and we can do that. There was a point where I was like, well, that'd be cool. That wasn't even possible when I became a yoga teacher in my world, in my technology world. Lori's asking a great question here, which I feel like you kind of answered in terms of content of that engagement, that reply then helps to to create more content, but are there other reasons to build or to have people reply to you?
It depends on what you're asking. It's a great question, Lori. So, engagement in that connection, building that relationship is definitely number one. Like, that is, I would say, how many people have you hit reply to and thought, I wonder if they'll actually reply back? And when they do, you're like, "Oh my gosh, they actually replied. That's so exciting." I know I've had that moment many times. And so your students know, even if you're like, "But my students don't think that." They do. They totally do. And that connection in between classes is huge. So that is definitely it. But there could be other reasons of like, maybe you really want to know what time to host your class. Like, should you host it at noon or at 5? And you could have people reply and tell you so that you're not making the decision. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what your goal is. But on an ongoing basis, I would say it's to build relationships.
I think that's fantastic. Some of you are saying in the comments that you want to see behind the scenes into the course. So I'm going to
Oh,
do that. And
yay.
Tess is here and saying the course is
Oh,
fantastic.
yes.
Someone else is saying it's so good.
Thank you.
Tonight, who is in
Oh,
there teaching about
shout out.
branding?
The night
Uh,
blew my socks off, blew my yoga socks off with what she provided. If you don't know tonight, she is a brand strategist, and I worked with her at the end of last year. Oh my gosh. So if you think anything that I do looks cool or sounds cool, it's because tonight's team touched it. She took my company and made it just she amped it up. And so when I worked with her, I thought, oh my gosh, if I could have her inside my course. And she said yes. So, dear yoga teacher friend, you get to experience Denight and all of her amazingness. And so she created a ton of resources around creating your yoga brand that's inside the course, which is awesome. And I also want to give a shout out to you, Shannon, because you're in it too. And a lot of people ask Shannon about niching down. So she and I have talked about this many times, but there is a special way that Shannon has with this that, I mean, I love talking about niching down and I could talk about it all day, but there is a way that Shannon talks about this that is absolutely phenomenal that I'll just never be able to do. So I asked Shannon to come in and talk about niching. So Shannon's in the course too.
It's my favorite. It's really my favorite topic. I feel like I have to hold back to not talk about it to just like friends.
Right.
Friends don't want to hear about niching unless
They
they're
don't.
asking about it.
They don't.
Someone else is saying, I feel like this course has tons of strategy built in, but the templates are so helpful and make the strategy easier to digest.
That makes
I'm
me
so
very
glad you did this. Like, I know that you were looking at creating a marketing course that would be like a university level for people who want to market. And I was like, but the yoga teachers are just saying like, help me with my email and my
Yeah. I
social
know,
media.
you told me, and I was not listening for the longest time because and here's the lesson in this. I was creating what I wish I had when I started my business. But I went to school to learn about marketing. I had marketing experience in the corporate world. So I had the basic knowledge of marketing, and I wished that I had something that was like, here's all the strategy you need when you're starting your own business. That's what I wanted, right? We can't create for what we want. We need to create for what our students want, which I recognize we don't know at the beginning because I didn't know. I didn't know what you needed, dear yoga teacher friend. I didn't know. So I had to just guess for a little bit. But once I have this relationship back and forth with yoga teachers, you told me, and it was my job to listen.
This happens all the time when we're in business. No matter if we're a yoga teacher or we're someone who, specializes in something about business, we're always 100 steps ahead of the people that we're serving, and we have to dial it back a little minute. Okay. Denight said she had to go for another call, but that's okay, Denight. Thank you. I'm so excited to get into Denight's part of
Oh
the
my gosh,
course,
it's
the
so
branding
good.
course. I'm so excited also because she talks about how to use Canva, the free
Oh,
version.
I mean, it's like, so basically, when I talked to Denite and I said, "Hey, would you be in the course?" And she said, "Of course I will." And so I asked her, just like I asked you, Shannon, to like, okay, we're going to record this Zoom. And maybe like I would like to give some sort of a resource, which you did a phenomenal job with your resource as well. It's just so you know, Shannon created this PDF that is above and beyond. I mean, it's like questions, because if you have any struggle niching down, this PDF is going to help you. I have tried to create 400 PDFs to help yoga teachers niche down, and I can't do it. You whip out this PDF in like 10 minutes, I feel like, and it asks so many great questions. And so that PDF was born. So I asked Denite the same thing. Denite then, because she's dealing with branding and colors and fonts and Canva, she recorded Loom videos of how to do all of it. So her section is like a mini course in the course.
That's amazing. I can't wait to dig into that. I mean it. When I was listening to her talk about it, I was like, I need to get in there, which I can. And I'll share with all of you what it looks like. Let me click some buttons. If anyone has questions about the course, now's the time to ask, because you have Amanda here.
I'm here. Tag me. I say tag me on Facebook, but chase me down on Facebook is really the better option. You'll definitely catch me on Instagram, but Facebook, you got to track me down.
So true. Her videos are amazing. And I feel like we have to do a whole other live at some point just to show. I'm gonna play it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Just to show you how she did this.
We can't hear it on our end.
Oh, well, there's a little dancey music.
There's fun music.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, let me stop this one. Well, let me scroll down so you can see there's the video where Amanda cheers you on, and this is the email one. And it's all here, like, here's the transcript, which I love. You've made it accessible as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then this right here, I know it just looks like it says link to Google Drive folder with templates, but it is amazing. So I have to share a different screen. Let me do this again. Stop doing that one and share a different one. I just don't want you to see, when it goes into like, and you see
like the vortex of the ether. Yes.
You'll see us, and then you'll see the mirror. Okay, so take a look at this email templates. This is all ready for you. You know how I talk to many of you on the podcast or here in our group, and I say, make sure you do a freebie and and then it leads down this funnel. Well, here is like the whole thing, the subject line, hi, blah, blah, blah. And then all of the text that you would use, like email check-in again, the offer. I love this so much, Amanda, that you've made it really like Mad Libs for email.
That was the goal. I really wanted it to be easy. And then you find what works for you, right? Like you're probably not going to use this template forever. You're going to create your own. And that's the point. So I gave as many examples without it being overwhelming, but I really want everyone to hear me when I say, like, this is the starting point. Take it, use it, and then make it yours. Your emails are never going to be just like someone else's, even though a lot of you are starting with the same template. So you have to make it your own, but it's a great way to get started for sure.
Another thing that you can't see because if you haven't studied with Amanda or taken this course, I mean, one other thing I want to highlight is there's a 97-page manual that goes with this course.
Yes. So I basically wrote a book as I was creating this course. And, this is another testament of me listening to my audience, which I'm really honing in on right now, because I want you to know that, number one, I didn't have yoga teachers in my audience when I first started. I had 0 yoga teachers until my dear friend Megan, who is my private yoga teacher, became my first student, because she was like, Amanda, I don't know what I'm doing with marketing. Can you help me? And I was like, yes. Oh my gosh. And the business was born. And so I started with that. I had no idea what I was doing. And now I continue to listen. And I know now that yoga teachers love manuals. So I was like, well, I can create a manual. And so I set off on this journey during the course to create a manual, and it ended up being a very big manual.
It is. It's amazing. Okay, and the other piece I want to highlight here is, you see here how it says like monthly theme, habits, subject line.
Mhm.
This is an email example, but I want to explain to anyone who doesn't know your method of working with things, you try and make it all easy. Like
Mhm.
the email is going to be very related to your social media posts. So you're not reinventing the wheel every time you create content in that month or that week. You've made it so
Mhm.
clear and focused. Like this will be, your call to action, your email, your social media, and how it all fits together in this. We're telling the story, we're giving free things to our yoga students. And then when we go to ask them to sign up for that course or that workshop or that class, it's just
Mhm.
an organic thing. They're like, okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
I really have connected with you now.
Exactly. I really do try to keep it as easy as possible, because I think, and I point at myself the most here, that it's really easy for us to feel like we need to create new stuff all the time, and everything needs to be unique. And I heard this. I want to give credit where credit is due. Where did I hear this? It was a yoga podcast, Yoga Land. Yoga Land has a new podcast about creating content. And I can't remember which one, husband or wife, said that yoga teachers often feel like you're creating something new, a new sequence, when basically you're taking a few poses and shuffling them around. And then you'll take the same poses and shuffle them around again. And so you're just shuffling things around a lot of the time, because that's the way we teach, and it feels new and fresh, but it really is just kind of moving some puzzle pieces around, right? That's what we're doing with our content. That's exactly what we're doing with our content. So if you take the monthly theme, which I think is the easiest way to wrap our minds around content when we're getting started, you might find a different system that works later. But man, when you're getting started, I think picking a monthly theme of, okay, I'm going to talk about habits this month. I'm going to talk about flexibility next month. I'm going to talk about whatever it is. Before you've niched down, after you've niched down, this works across the board. Pick a monthly theme and talk about that all month, and teach on that, and create that way. You're just talking about very similar things the whole time, and everything's kind of building upon each other. And then the pro tip here is, like, if you have a core workshop coming up in a month, talk about the core the month before. And then it's a natural lead into your workshop.
This is so good. And this monthly theme carries you through when you're like, okay, I'm going to talk about that thing. And I want to tell yoga teachers as well. I know that you think, okay, I talked about that thing. I'm going to call a yoga teacher out, not by name. But I was talking with a yoga teacher who said, okay, my theme's going to be sleep. And
Oh,
one
good
of
one.
the things was like, shut your screens down. I can't remember, actually. I can't remember what the thing was. Shut your screens down at this time of the night. It was an hour or two before bed. So you're not looking at your screen. That'll help you with your sleep. And then there were a lot of other Ayurveda tips. And I've already forgotten part of them. That yoga teacher could keep repeating the same thing to me. And just like, we were just talking about this last week, Amanda, be the broken record.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is, I feel like we've even talked about it today. Like, you've talked about niching down. I've said, I feel like I say this all the time, but I've got to say it again. We have this we have this idea that we're really driving people crazy and bothering them by saying the same thing over and over again. But actually, when you're that broken record, when you are saying things all the time to where you're like, has anyone not heard this yet? That's when you're doing something right. And again, I think it was on Yoga Land that I heard this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Think about how many times you have instructed people on how to practice down dog. You're not getting sick of saying that, right? You're still doing that. You're still going to tell them, no matter how many times you've told them to tuck your toes and stick the booty in the air, however you decide to tell people how to get into down dog, you instruct them every single class, right? You do that. You tell them, you remind them. We have to remind people. And so, whatever your core message is, so Shannon talks about niching down in the course, and we talk through the whole idea of how to do that, why to do that, the steps to take. I also talk about a core message because it doesn't matter. Like, certainly once you niche down, you're going to have a core message, and those two things are going to be tied together. But even before you niche down, you can have a core message. You can have a core message that you talk about. Maybe that's the monthly theme, is your core message for that month, and you keep moving forward. When you have this idea of a core message, it makes everything easier. And you get to say it, and you get to experiment with how to say this in different ways to figure out which one resonates. Right? Like, because our students need to hear something, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I get it. Oh my gosh, I get it. It's like this light bulb moment. I mean, I talk about the same things over and over again in 17 different ways, over and over and over again. And it, I just feel like it's our job to remind people, because we need to be there for them the moment that they're ready to hear it. Right? They might not be ready to hear your message of anyone can do yoga. You don't have to be flexible. They might not be ready to hear that today, but tomorrow they might be.
This is so good. Laura said this was so helpful for me when it came to understanding marketing. Thank you, Amanda. And I think she's calling out something that you often say, like, they can't come if you don't invite them to the party. That's one thing you're known for saying over and over again.
Yes.
And Sherry was saying, like, the word niche always makes me think of Shannon Crow. And I know Amanda
That's
wants
so good.
all of you to think, like, what do you want people to associate with you? You know, what is that thing when they're like, oh, I see that yoga teacher and I know this is the thing they talk about all the time. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so good when someone can. This is where, oh my gosh, I'm just having this moment of like, this is where your section in the course, Shannon, and tonight's section in the course really come together. Because when we think about a brand, we often think about a logo, colors, fonts, those types of things. But your brand is so much more than that. And it really comes down to, what are you known for? What do your students know you for? And it's so cool that someone's like, when I hear niching, I think about Shannon. Like, that's what you want. What do you want to be known for? And not what do you want to be famous for? Because oftentimes I'll say, what do you want to be known for? And people are like, I don't want to be famous, Amanda. And I'm like, okay, what do you want your students to know you for? What do you want that to be? I hope that everyone who comes in contact with me as a student of mine feels incredibly encouraged to find a way to make marketing fun and easy for you. Because if you can do that, you will grow your business, right? Like, I really hope that happens. And I hope everyone feels that way. And so there's probably that type of a feeling, like, I hope my students feel whatever. Like, I hope they feel relaxed. I hope they feel like they have permission to do yoga however they want to do, right? Like, you could have that same idea. You want them to have that permission to find what works for them.
This is amazing. This is so good. I am excited. I really think the yoga world in general or yoga teacher training often is missing the marketing piece. And we can study anatomy and philosophy till the cows come home, and we will never get, yoga out to the people who really need it until we can market. Like, people talk about making yoga more accessible and having chair yoga and all of the things to make your class amazing. I've
Mhm.
seen teachers take over 500 hours worth of training and still never tell people and invite them to come to their class. And this makes me excited that your course is going to help that happen and keep yoga teachers in business. I mean,
Yes.
I know so many yoga teachers who are like, I want this to become my full-time thing. And it is
Mhm.
very possible to do it. And
Yeah, you're
marketing is
living
a
proof.
huge part. Yeah. Yes. But marketing has to be there.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important where to think about what marketing really is, because oftentimes I'll hear, I don't want to do marketing. And I think, okay, I think this person has had a bad experience with advertising, which is not the same as marketing, by the way. So there's differences here. But what happens is someone has a bad experience and they feel like they have to be selling all the time. Marketing is communicating. Marketing is just inviting people to the party, which I say all the time. And like I've even had people say to me, Amanda, I really don't want to do any marketing, which is funny to me because I'm clearly the marketing coach, right? Like I don't hide that at all. And like, I really don't want to do, or I haven't done any marketing. I'll get this a lot too. Amanda, I haven't done any marketing and I don't know what to do now that I'm online. And I'll say, okay, well, how did you get people into class before? Well, I invited them. That's marketing. Like, however you invited them to class, that is marketing. That is it. If you talk to people in the grocery store, that is marketing. If your students invite people, that is marketing. They're just doing it for you, right? But you had to get them somehow. So how did you get those first few students? So you got to think about, how are people showing up to your class? And it's through inviting people in some way. So all it is figuring out, what is the best mode of communication for you and your students, because there is that blend of, you have to be on the right channels based on where your students are, but it's simply inviting people to your amazing yoga class. Like, it's an amazing party. Shannon hears me say this all the time. If you plan an amazing party, like absolutely amazing, best food, best music, we get to hang out in person again, all things are great in the world again. It's amazing, but you don't send out invites. You're partying by yourself. You're all alone. There's no one there to party with you.
That is what I see of like, grab the teacher trainings and all the tools and all the things is like the party supplies, but we forgot to send the invites out. I feel like you and I could literally, well, I actually know that we can just keep talking about this.
It's
I said
true.
to Sean, it'll probably be a half an hour, I guess.
Michael's wandering. Like, when are they going to be off of this call? I feel like we need to give them a shout out because they always put up with us. And Sean said something so funny the other day, because Facebook told Shannon that we have been friends for 2 years. Facebook told her the other day. And at the end of this little jingle that it gave to us, which I tried for the life of me to figure out how to download this thing, because I was like, I need to share this. I can't. So it says at the end that it's Amanda and Shannon Day. And I was like, how can this be a thing? Sean said it is all the time.
That's Amanda and Shannon Day happens a lot, he said. You guys have your business planning times. I want to give a shout out to Micah, who said, quit my day job in January. I
Oh,
couldn't have done it without learning the marketing piece through Amanda. This is Micah.
thank
That's
you, Mike.
amazing.
It's really sweet. Micah is a blessing in my life for sure. She is a student of mine, and she now is helping inside my business. It was one of those things, like, it worked out really well because she stepped away from her job and she has fully stepped into teaching yoga. And it just so happened that I needed a little bit more help on some of the back end. And so I reached out and said, hey, while you're getting everything up and running, would you like to help? And so Micah is wonderful. She's absolutely wonderful. And it's really cool to watch yoga teachers, because Micah's not the only one that I have watched step away from a full-time job. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of guts, and a lot of understanding of marketing, right, to make that really work. And she's done it.
Exactly. Tess is just saying, well done and congratulations. I'm hoping to make the jump at the end of the school year. Oh my gosh, Tess, that is
Oh my
really
gosh,
exciting.
Tess, keep us posted. I want to hear, and I want to hear, Tess, how can we support you? Like, what questions do you have? You're already in the course, so let me know what questions you have. You can hit reply to any of my emails and let me know what questions you have, because I mean, use those resources, especially once you buy, like Shannon was talking about trainings. If you see a training, ask them, what tools are you giving me to promote my business as I go through this training? Right? Ask them those questions, get more resources, because hopefully those trainings are going to give you some resources in building your business. And if not, look for them. I don't care if it's my course or not. I would love to have you inside my course, but gosh, find someone that can help you build your business, because that's what you want to do, and keep growing your business.
Okay. I feel like we've almost forgotten. So
What?
one, if you're going to buy the course, use the code CONNECTED.
Yes.
You
10%
go to
off.
amandamckinney.com/course. I also want to tell all of you that the 100 social media posts is mind-blowing. Like, I can't believe it when I see it. And you have 2 bonuses that end this Friday.
Yes,
Tell us about
Thursday.
those 2
They end
bonuses.
on the 25th.
Oh, the 25th. So that's coming up soon.
Yes.
3
So
days.
anyone who purchases the course has purchased the course, from the 15th, from the 15th through the 25th. If you purchase the course, which your names are over here on a Post-it, they're over here, everyone. I didn't want to show everyone's name on on the video, so I won't do that. But your names are on my wall, so thank you so much. And anyone who has joined the course from the 15th to the 25th will be entered into a drawing to win 6 months inside my membership. So Shannon loves my membership. She's been telling me for at least a year to open it publicly. So that's coming. But right now it's only open to people that are going through the course, but that's going to change. But you'll get 6 months inside the membership. So that giveaway is happening. And everyone is invited to a live training that everyone inside the course up until the 25th that purchases, even before. So Shannon, you're invited.
Oh,
Anyone gets to join a free, well, it's inside the course, a training on engagement. So we talked about engagement on email today. I'll talk more about email and probably similar things, but really diving into social media engagement and how to gain more traction, because I keep hearing, like, I feel like I need to be running ads because I'm not getting enough organic traffic on my social media. And once you start using the templates, step 2 is really getting more engagement and communicating with your followers on social media and in email, and really stepping up that engagement and relationship building. And so that training will live inside the course, but you get to attend live.
that is so exciting. I love that you have bonuses and that our connected yoga teachers get 10% off. If anyone has questions, tag Amanda here in the comments. If you're watching the replay, if she misses it, I will send her a message to say, hey, there's a really good question. I will.
Yes.
I watch my notifications.
Shannon's better on Facebook than I am.
Amanda's better at Instagram.
Yeah, I like Instagram. I live there more. But Shannon will tell me, and I promise it's not that I'm trying to ignore you. I just don't look at Facebook as much.
Well, thank you so much for all of this, Amanda. I feel like this could go in your course like extra. It's probably all in there. But
I don't know.
it's
These were great questions. I
they
would
were.
love to answer more and more questions live like this. This is so great. So thank you everyone for joining. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for all of your time and all of the work that you do to support yoga teachers. It means a lot.
Thank you, Shannon.
Bye, everyone.